Okay, guys, here we go. Come on, hurry. Hold the door, hold the door. No, stop pressing the buttons, guys. Stop pressing the buttons. Stop pressing the buttons. Boys, stop bothering the man. Guys, seriously. Come on.
You going up to see the doctor? I'm going up to see the doctor. Kind of have this rash, it's real itchy. So, probably gonna need a cream, an ointment, antibiotic, I don't know. I just gotta do something. Oh, hey, this is me. See you, man.
Boys, come on, let's go.
I'll give you a call. That's no problem. I'll be in touch. Just tell him to send me a text when he shows up. And then, we'll have people coming over and, I don't know, we didn't even talk about menu. Sure. That sounds good. I'll talk to you later. Okay. Bye.
Wait, hold the door, hold the door.
Whether you've ever heard of boundaries before or not, without a shadow of doubt, every single one of us in this room knows that that man in that elevator at that moment had his boundaries violated in major, major ways. And maybe the simplest definition of a boundary is when our personal space is violated, but it's actually a lot bigger than that. It's more than just our personal space. Boundaries involve our relationships. Boundaries involve our emotions. It's a whole lot bigger than just our personal space. When you don't have proper boundaries, then you end up with a lot of symptoms, and he kind of lists the symptoms that you may have. And so here's what he said. You might find yourself with depression, anxiety disorders, eating disorders, addictions, guilt problems, impulsive disorders, shame problems, panic disorders, marital and relational struggles. And he says, all of these are symptoms of just improper boundaries in our lives. And again, it's easy to define the physical boundaries. It gets tougher when all of a sudden we find ourselves in relationships or with our emotions, and those boundaries get fuzzy. And so if you find yourself in any of these categories, if you'd say, you know what, that kind of describes me, then maybe it's a result of unclear boundaries. But more than that, I would just say what's interesting with these is there's one thing, as I look at all these, one thing that kind of defines each and every one of them, one thing that would describe each and every one of them. With all of them, there's this sense of just kind of, there's no way out. I don't know how I'm going to change things. There's no way out of the condition I'm in. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Bottom line, each and every one of these, I would look at and say, you know what? There's this sense of hopelessness that accompanies each and every one of these. A hopelessness that nothing's going to change, a hopelessness that I can't get out of this situation. And if you find yourself here, you need to know you're not the only one that has experienced this, and you're not the first one that has experienced this. And the good news is God clearly tells us how to establish boundaries. In desperate times, we're very poor decision makers. And I think the reason why we're poor decision makers is we don't know what's coming around the corner. We don't know what's gonna happen next, and we don't know if relief is on its way or not. All we see is that things look hopeless. All we see is that things are bleak. For the two women, remember the two women who said, you know what, let's give our babies up. The reason they made such a bad decision, they didn't know whether relief was coming or not. And the tragic thing for them is relief came just 24 hours later. But in the midst of difficult, desperate times, we make bad decisions because we don't know if relief is coming or not. And you kind of question, you say, how in the world could those moms make that kind of decision? How in the world could they stoop to that point? But my guess is we've all been in desperate situations, and we've all made some pretty foolish decisions. I mean, we've cheated, we've lied, we've broken promises, we've ended relationships, we've ended marriages, all because we didn't know that relief was right around the corner. This story to me is so cool because it's actually a picture of how God works, because the very thing that was sent to destroy the people of Samaria is the very thing that God uses to bring them from death to life. The very thing that was going to take all of their lives. God uses the food, the drink, the riches to bring them back to life. And it's just kind of what God does. See, what God does again and again and again is God takes what seems hurtful for us and he actually turns it into a blessing for us, where we find ourselves in a situation, we go, it is so painful. I don't know how I can do this. And yet God takes those circumstances and he turns them around, and all of a sudden he says, you know what? The very thing that was going to damage you, the very thing that was going to hurt you, I'm going to do something in your life where all of a sudden it becomes a blessing. And with the people of Samaria, that's not the first time that God had done that. He's done it throughout history again and again and again. He still does it today. And that's the good news of God, is that he takes bad things and he turns them into something that's good. And Romans 8:28 actually says it this way: we know that God causes everything to work together for the good of those who love God and are called according to his purposes for him. We know that God has this ability to take what seems disastrous and turn it into something good. And see, what you need to understand about God is God is in the business of resurrecting. God is in the business of bringing life from death. You'd say, you know what? My life is caving in. If you were to describe your life, you'd say, I feel like I'm just hanging on by a thread. I feel like I'm at the end of my rope. However you want to say it. Maybe you'd say, you know what? My heart is just barely beating. Or maybe you'd say, for you, you just kind of feel like I've been swimming, I've been treading water, and I don't think I can hang on any longer. My arms are tired. I'm about to go under. And the feelings that you're having right now, you would say, you know what? It just feels like I'm full of despair. Feels like I'm just in this hopeless situation. And what you need now more than anything is for somebody to throw you a lifeline. Like the people in Samaria, the 4 lepers, what they needed was a new beginning. You'd say, that's me. I need a lifeline. I need a new beginning. I need some good news to kind of change my life. And you need to understand, Jesus is calling you. And God the Father, his arms are open wide, and he's saying, come. And this is what God says to each and every one of us. Jeremiah 29:11, God says, for I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. They're plans for good, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. And even though right now you may feel like it's hopeless, even though you may feel like your life is full of despair, God says, no, that's not what I have planned for you. My plans for you are good, not disaster. My plans for you are filled with hope. And in the midst of your hopeless situation, God says, I've got good plans for you. Easter is all about God resurrecting Jesus from the dead. And Easter is all about God offering resurrection to you and to me as well. And God offers new life, and it's there for the taking. And the taking is simply just acting on what God says. It's simply saying, yeah, I want to receive this gift of new life through Jesus. Yeah, Jesus, I'm asking you to resurrect me. Today is the day to act on the good news. For the people in the city, even though they had the good news, it didn't change until they went out and got the food and got the drink and took the riches home with them. Life didn't change until they acted on it. And so go ahead and poke and prod all you need. But at some point, you've got to act. You've got to say, yeah, this is what I want for me. And God offers to bring you from the edge of death to life. God offers you in the midst of your hopelessness a life of joy, where he says, you know what? I can take you from the ashes of defeat and I can give you victory in your life. And he did it in Samaria. He's done it throughout history. He's done it to thousands and thousands and thousands of others, many of them sitting around you even right now. And he's just offering resurrection to you today.